The corporate world is not made for us. If you're an introvert, you know that we struggle a lot fitting in. I've been in consulting for 3 years now. I've been in a big four consulting firm. Lots of people, lots of meetings, lots of social interaction, and also a talent model which recognizes people who speak up and shout about their work. I want to give you some very honest advice on how to survive it, how to navigate it, and what ways you can make it work for you. Tip number one is to really separate the concepts of being introverted and being insecure. You don't have to be both of those at the same time, and you can be very confident as an introvert. I say it from my own experience because I'm actually still just as introverted as I think I was, say, 5 years ago, but I'm so much more confident and I feel so much better in my work and also just socially outside of work. I have now, for example, become way more confident at meeting new people, speaking in meetings, trying to hype myself up more in talent reviews. And this is the stuff that came very unnaturally to me at the very beginning when I first started this job. Try and deal with your insecurities wherever they're coming from. Is it the decision making? You're not sure you can make some decisions. Ask your manager, have a conversation with them and see if maybe they can delegate some stuff for you to own. Don't be scared of ownership. Expose yourself to situations where you interact with new people and you just feel a bit more at ease with the concept of being out there and not staying in the corner all the time. For example, I still very much prefer to be in the corner when it's large meetings because I don't love having to kind of make space forcefully for me to speak. But in a smaller meeting, I have become way more vocal, and I think you should too. And it will really help you feel more in control of your work and also more fulfilled, because the more you actively participate in decision making, the better you feel at work. And I've felt that shift from when I was first an analyst and now I'm a consultant, and 3 years into the job, I do way more of that, and I think it will help you feel better at work. Number two is everyone's favorite, of course, networking. It has to be said that networking is a huge part of a corporate job, some more than others. For example, if you're in consulting, it's very much common practice to have coffee chats and having good connections, and connections can help you get promoted faster and all of that stuff that probably doesn't come naturally to you, because it doesn't to me. The way I've tried to navigate it is alongside building my confidence and interacting with people a bit more. I have seen networking as getting to know people when I genuinely have an interest. I fully admit that this is not the best approach for fast tracking your career. If you want to fast track it, you have to be strategic and get to know the people who have decision-making powers and will really move you forward, whose opinion matters in talent reviews, who have senior positions. But if you're introverted, you probably get very drained by that stuff. So what I've done is I have done the strategic bit a little bit when there's a common topic that I have with the person, common interest. For example, I'm really into culture and leadership work. And with those people, it would both help me career-wise to get to know them a bit more, maybe put a coffee chat in for half an hour, but it would also be interesting to me, so it doesn't feel as fake. And I know that if you're introverted, if you're similar to me, the fake stuff really freaks you out. It's not nice, and I hate it too. Try and strike the balance between the strategic and, more so than that, just getting to know people who would be nice to talk to for you. Number three is related. Be very ruthless with the socials that you go to. If you work at a big corporate firm, chances are you've got a ton of events to go to, a ton of socials, a ton of drinks, a ton of other opportunities to speak to a lot of people, and it's exhausting. It is for me. And when I first started, especially at a very junior grade, I think a lot of attention is being paid to giving you those opportunities to socialize. And as much as it can be very nice, it can also be very draining, particularly for us. What I've started doing now is to really take a step back and just think, which of these socials or events do I really want to go to, or do I really need to go to? I'll give you an example of each. Example of a want for me is if there's a culture team connect. It's a small team It's a team who have the same interest as me in the culture work. There's a lot of familiar faces, and it's not as big of an ask because I feel like I'm just catching up with people I've not seen in a while. A social I need to go to is, for example, a social for my operating unit, my kind of wider team that I sit in, or department, if you will, because it helps to get to know people when it comes to talent reviews and when it comes to kind of your name being out there, being like, here's what Anastasia has done throughout the year. It's nice to have people recognize your face, recognize your name, and be like, oh yeah, I've talked to her at this social, she seems great, whatever. That is a thing I strategically need for me to progress well at the firm. So those are the two reasons why I might go to a thing, and if it doesn't fall into either of those categories, I don't want to go there. I also don't need to. I've just started to say no to that stuff and just skip it. Next one is take recharging very seriously. For some people, particularly for extroverted people, this may be a nice to have. It could be a nice to have to go somewhere by yourself, or maybe miss an event, have a night in. For us introverts, it is an absolute necessity to actually do that and create the time in your schedule where you've got no plans and no social interaction and you can just be by yourself. You have to make space for that because life gets very busy, and with a corporate job, if you're anything like me and you're in consulting, it's intense and there's always work to do. It never ends, it never stops, there's always a growing to-do list. Also, naturally, as you get to know people in a big firm, you get more social plans, you get invited to things, and I'm very grateful to have an amazing circle of friends and there's always something going on, but I can't show up fully and like my best self if I say yes to every single plan and I go everywhere, and then by the end of it I'm exhausted and I'm burnt out socially and I just stress about it and don't enjoy it. I'll be honest, if I get to the end of the week and I've had a work week, intense evening plans, I also do a lot of dancing because I'm a dancer outside of consulting, so that's a whole other juggle to manage. And then I've got evening catch-ups with friends, I've got dance class, I then have maybe a birthday party, I've got a bunch of stuff on the weekend. It gets to Monday, I am a shell of a person. So some examples of how I personally recharge in work and outside of work. So in work, sometimes I take lunch by myself. And if I've got the time and the opportunity to, I go on a walk where I either just enjoy the space around me, maybe some sun if you're lucky. I live in London, so that doesn't happen often. When it does, make full use of it. Also, I sometimes listen to a podcast or just catch up on messages, or maybe I've got like a personal thing that I need to do and I just sit alone, eat my lunch and do my thing. And I'm in headphones so that no one bothers me. And I really like doing that once in a while. I kind of need it because my work involves a lot of communicating with people. I'm in meetings all the time. There are meetings about scheduling meetings. So you can imagine that for an introvert like me, that can be a lot. You do get used to it. But when you have pockets of time, and it can be lunch, it can be your commute to work, that one is very much me time. Outside of work, I sometimes now have to kind of treat my recharging time as a plan. If you struggle with saying no, like I often do, it might not come naturally to you to say that you're not free. If all you plan to do is just to be by yourself, have some me time, maybe go on a walk, you might be tempted to be like, well, I am technically free, so I should be able to make it to this thing. I have mentally made the shift where sometimes if I really need a block of time to myself, I treat it as a plan, and that means I'm not available for other stuff and I'm actually not free. I've got a series that I actually started on my Instagram. I have two Instagram accounts. One is for dance and the other one is for this community and also just anything career related. Some memes, I have become a corporate meme. So there's a lot of really fun content on this page where I want you to follow me if you want to stay in touch. And I have made this introvert recharging series where I show you the different ways that I make that me time for myself to recharge as an introvert, the different things I do, for example, my routine in the airport if I'm traveling somewhere solo, or what I do on a quiet weekend day, how I have that time to really replenish my energy and have my battery full for the week ahead. So I plan to continue that series and expand it. So if you're interested in seeing that, do follow me on Instagram. But now on to the next tip. Final thing is to replicate what we introverts do in our social life outside of work, replicate that at work. And that means have a small circle of friends and catch up with them one-on-one or in small groups. When I was growing up, I was feeling that a dream would be to be part of a big friend group. And I'm gonna be very frank with you, I've never had that. I've always just had a small handful, and sometimes even like one at a time, close friend that I would go to as my main person, maybe a couple of people at most. And I always felt like, oh, is something wrong with me? And I've come to realize that not really, I am just an introvert and I really enjoy that. I really enjoy having deeper relationships with fewer people, but I really trust them and I can tell them anything about my life and discuss stuff with them. And then there's kind of the circle outside of that, people that are lovely to say hi to and have a chat with and spend some time with. And what I've started doing is replicating that at work. So if you're in a big corporate firm, it might be very tempting to try and hang out with everyone all the time and make those friendships. And you might feel the pressure to do that because some people will start doing that. You'll start seeing kind of friend groups and little cliques forming. It works for me to not always go in a huge group to a lunch, but rather to catch up with a friend or actually to spend time alone. And you shouldn't feel bad about that. If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll really like this one where I talk about what it's actually like being an introvert in consulting and spill some more consulting specific tea. So have a look and let me know what you think. Bye.